السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. معكم الأستاذ وائل علي سعيد مدرس اللغة الإنجليزية للصف السابع. اليوم سوف نتكلم عن الوحدة الرابعة Unit number 4 الوحدة الرابعة. Keep in touch، ابقى على تواصل. This is the title of Unit number 4. Today we are going to talk about something different. We're not going to deal with passages, questions and so on. We're going to talk about structure, grammar. نتكلم اليوم عن القواعد. So the aim of this lesson is to make correct sentences in order. What do you mean in order? بالترتيب. So we will get to know what do you mean by ordering a sentence or ordering a question. To make correct questions in order also. So we are going to deal with two things. Number one, sentences, and number two, questions. نتعامل مع الجمل، نتعامل كمان مع الأسئلة, and how can we order these sentences and questions. Now, sentences in English in general, بالعام، بشكل عام، الجمل. The sentences are divided into two parts. تقسم إلى قسمين. Number one, simple sentences. Number two, complex sentences. What do you mean by simple sentences and complex sentences? الجمل البسيطة والجمل المعقدة، أو بدنا نسميها مش معقدة، مركبة. تكون لديها شيء زيادة. Something extra. إشي زيادة على simple sentences. Now, for the simple sentences, the form of the simple sentences اللي هو شكلها. How can we form simple sentences? كيف بدنا نعمل على عمل جملة وتشكيل جملة بسيطة. We have a subject, of course. First, we have a subject. أولاً يجب أن يكون لدينا اللي هو ما يسمى بالفاعل. الفاعل إما أن يكون noun اسم or a pronoun. Okay. The main verb. Now here we don't have an auxiliary. So the difference between simple and complex sentences is that simple sentences don't have. So now the difference between simple and complex sentences is that simple sentences don't have auxiliaries, but complex have اللي نسميها auxiliaries الأفعال المساعدة. So the subject plus main verb الفعل الرئيسي plus complement تكملة الجملة. Okay. Now examples. We will have some examples. Ahmed is a subject. Plays is the main verb. Football is a complement. تكملة للجملة. Okay. Ahmed plays football. Do you see an auxiliary? شايفين انتوا هون فعل مساعد helping verb? No, we don't have here is, am, are, was, were, do, does, did, have, has, had, can, could, may, might, and so on. So these words are not written here. So we don't have an auxiliary. So it is simple sentences. Number two, Huda drove fast last week. Drove here. The main verb, we don't have an auxiliary, so it is a simple sentence. 3, they dance at the party. So it is a simple sentence because we don't have an auxiliary. Simple, بسيطة، لأنه مفيش عندنا فعل مساعد. Number 4, he broke the window yesterday, and so on. Number 5, she studied hard for the exam. Okay. Next. We are going to deal with the complex. Now, the complex sentences form is شكلهم subject of course, auxiliary, the helping verb, main verb, and complement. What is the difference? Here we have an auxiliary, here we don't have an auxiliary. Some examples. Salim is playing football. Is here an auxiliary, so it is a complex. 2. Huda was driving fast last week. Was is an auxiliary. 3. They are dancing at the party. Are here is an auxiliary, so it is a complex also. 4. He has just broken the window. Has is one of the auxiliaries. Number 5. She didn't study hard for the exam. So also didn't is an auxiliary. So they or these 5 examples are for the complex sentences. Next, we're going to talk about questions. Now, remember, sentences are 2 parts. قسمين. Simple sentences, جمل بسيطة, and complex sentences. Now, we are going to deal with questions. بالأسئلة. Remember that questions are divided into 3 parts, not 2 parts. So, number 1, WH questions. We will get to know what do you mean by WH. Number 2, yes/no questions. And number 3, tagged questions. We are going to do number 1 now. WH questions. If you see these words at the beginning of a question, so it is definitely a WH question. إذا شفتوا هدول الكلمات موجودين في بداية السؤال مثل كلمة what, where, when, why, who, how. تمام. هذه how مثلا لم تبدأ بالWH وإنما بدأت بالH. It's okay. It is also a WH question. So what بمعنى ماذا؟ Where أين؟ When متى؟ Why لماذا؟ How كيف؟ Who من؟ Okay. Now we will get to know the form. بدنا نعرف شو هو الشكل عشان نعرف the correct order of a question. WH word, one of these words. Auxiliary, of course. Subject, the subject. Ahmad, Sami, Rami, Huda, Salim. Okay, whatever. Or he, she, it, they, you, we. Okay, and so on. Plus main verb. الفعل الرئيسي. Plus the complement, and don't forget the question mark here. ما تنسى علامة السؤال. So this is the form we are going to deal with in order to order a question. هذا اللي هو الشكل اللي بدنا نستخدمه حتى نقوم بتشكيل أو وضع السؤال، كلمات السؤال في ترتيب مناسب وصحيح. For example, what are you doing at the market? 2. Where, the WH word, do is an auxiliary, you is a subject, play is the main verb, basketball after school is a complement. Okay. Next, how are you? And of course, don't forget to put the question mark. It is an essential part of the question. هذه شيء ضروري جدا ومهم. Next, we're going to deal with the next or the second part of the questions, which is yes or no question. This is yes or no questions. Yes or no questions, we have to know 2 things in order to know and order a yes/no question. Number 1, it starts with an auxiliary. Auxiliary, helping verb, فعل مساعد. يبدأ بفعل مساعد دائما وأبدا. يكون إما is, am, are, was, were, has, have, had, and so on. 2 answers are correct. Either yes or no. إما أن يكون جوابه إما yes وإما no. Now we will see. The form, الشكل بدنا نتعامل معه. An auxiliary at the first, at the beginning. Subject next. The main verb. And here we have the complement. Then we have a question mark. This is the form of the answer. هذا هو عبارة عن شكل المين الجواب. Yes, this is a comma, فاصلة, plus subject. Where to get this subject? من وين نروح نجيب هذا subject? From the question itself, من السؤال نفسه. Then the auxiliary. Here, the auxiliary from the question itself also. Next, now, comma, plus subject, plus auxiliary, plus not. This is the answer no. If we answer a yes no question with no, إذا جاوبنا السؤال yes no question بجواب no، يجب علينا أن نضع على الأوكسيلياري الموجود هنا إيش؟ not حتى ننفيه. Okay, we will see some examples. بدنا نشوف بعض الأمثلة. Are you drinking coffee? Look at this order. Are is an auxiliary, you is a subject, drinking is the main verb, coffee is a complement, and we have a question mark. So the answers are going to be yes I am, because you here is the question is yes I am. So you here الموجودة عندنا هون اليو الفاعل حولت إلى I. You في السؤال تحول في الجواب إلى I. And am here because we have are in the present continuous tense. Is, am, are. Is, am, are, was, were. These are the auxiliaries. For the subject he, she, it, we use is. He, she, it is. Is that correct? Yes. And for the plural subject للفاعل الجمع they, you, we بياخدوا ايش؟ بياخدوا are. حكينا الار للكتار. Next الاي دائما تأتي مع الام. بما انه حولنا اليو هون الى اي، لذلك الفعل المساعد المناسب للاي هو الام. حولنا الار الى ام. هون كانت مناسبة لليو اللي هي ار. Now لما عملنا على تغيير اليو إلى آي تم تحويل أيضا ما يسمى بالفعل المساعد إلى آم لمناسبة الآي الموجودة. Now two, the other answer is no. No, I am not. Here we have not. So number two, do you play basketball after school? This is a yes/no question. Do is an auxiliary, you is a subject, play is the main verb, basketball after school is a complement, and the question mark. The two answers are yes I do. Here you تم تحويلها إلى I، والدو موجودة لأنها الدو تناسب الآي عادي ما فيها شيء، فبتصير yes I do. And the other question is, the other answer is no I don't. Next, have you ever been to Jordan? Have you ever been to Jordan? The answers are yes I have, no I have not. Here you تم تحويلها إلى I، والهاف بقيت كما هي، والنو لا ننسى إنه بنحط عليها النوت. Next we're going to deal with the final part of the question, which is the tag questions or question tags. Question tags هدول بنسميهم باللغة العربية الأسئلة الدليلية. جملة بدأت، في نهاية هذه الجملة يكون هنالك سؤال. باللغة العربية نقول أليس كذلك؟ تمام؟ Okay, let's see this question. They come at the end of a sentence. تأتي دائما في نهاية جملة. تبلش جملة ما بتبلش سؤال، بلش جملة وفي نهايتها يكون سؤال. They contain a subject and an auxiliary. فيش في هذا السؤال إلا شيئين فقط، أشياء اثنين اللي هم السبجكت الفاعل والأوكسيلياري وهو الفعل المساعد. Let's see the form. بدنا نشوف الشكل. Negative sentence يعني جملة منفية في من ضمنها not يعني منفية. شو السؤال اللي بيكون هذا في نهاية الجملة؟ بنحط عندنا هون طبعا الفاصلة زائد الأوكسيلياري. Where to get this auxiliary from? من وين نروح نجيبه؟ بنجيبه من النيجاتيف sentence اللي كانت قبله. And the subject والsubject برضه بنجيبه من الجملة، ومن ثم نضع علامة السؤال. تاني فورم اللي هو فورم نمبر 2 the positive sentence يعني الجملة اللي مش منفية ما في عليها نت. بنحط طبعا الفاصلة موجودة، بعدها بنحط الأوكسيلياري موجود من ضمن الجملة. Not here because it is a positive. Here we have a negative. يعني عكس بعض. إذا كانت الجملة منفية هون الأوكسيلياري بده يكون غير منفي مثبت، وإذا كانت الجملة مثبتة فلازم في السؤال يكون الأوكسيلياري منفي plus the subject. Examples: He is playing computer games. It is a sentence. هذه جملة. Let's see the question. Isn't he and the question mark. Is from here. We get is from the sentence. حصلنا عليها من الجملة. And here it is a positive sentence. جملة مالها مثبتة لا يوجد فيها not. في عليها not؟ لا يوجد. لذلك حطينا في السؤال not. He from the sentence أيضا جبناها من الجملة فصارت he is playing computer games. Isn't he هو يلعب ألعاب الكمبيوتر أليس كذلك؟ Okay, number 2. You are not working now. It is a negative sentence. هذه جملة مالها منفية في عليها not ونون not. هيو اختصار صح؟ are not. لو فكينا الارين كاي صارت are not. So do you know the answer? Do you know how can we form the question? Of course you know. So tell me. Are you? We put the auxiliary plus the subject. The auxiliary here is are and the subject is you. تمام؟ هون الفعل المساعد والفاعل. دائما خذها قاعدة في حلها. إنه السؤال الذيلي إذا كانت الجملة التي قبله التي سبقته مثبتة فيكون السؤال الذيلي ماله؟ منفي. وإذا كانت الجملة منفية التي قبل السؤال الذيلي فإن السؤال الذيلي يكون مثبت. تمام. And the last one, they didn't study hard. Here did not. So the answer is did they and the question mark. Next, after doing that all, now you can order a question. Whether it is a WH question, yes no question, or a tag question, or بنسميهم كمان اللي هو question tags. دول ثلاثة في الأسئلة. And also you can do the order for the sentences. تقدر تعمل الترتيب للجمل اللي هم simple sentences and of course the complex sentences. Now we have a homework. عندك واجب اعمله قم فيه تمام منيح. The homework is to do activities 2 on page number 32. This activity is to write the words in the correct order, then work in pairs to check and read your conversation together. Here we have a question, but it's not in the correct order. You have to order these words in order to get a question. Here we have a sentence. You have to order these words in order to get a correct sentence. بدك ترتب السؤال عشان يصير سؤال صح، ترتب الجملة حتى تكون جملة صح. وإلى هنا ينتهي درس اليوم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.